A crimson swirling portal cracks open the sky above a stunned crowd. Monstrous figures emerge, radiating an ominous aura of power. Humanity faces overwhelming odds, teetering on the brink of extinction. A glimmer of hope sparks as survivors discover a hidden strength. Amidst fiery chaos, individuals undergo a transformative awakening. Newly acquired powers and skills become humanity's last stand. Society shifts, now measuring worth by levels and abilities. The strongest 10, known as the Numbers, rise to legendary status. These heroes, humanity's saviors, now seek new recruits. A young man gazes up at the towering figures, contemplating their call. In a world bustling with the powerful, one young man stands utterly alone. This is Kuya Kamikami, who once dreamed of becoming a hero just like his saviors, the Numbers. As a child, his admiration for them was absolute, a bright and shining hope for his future. But the harshness of the real world shattered that innocent dream. He overhears others boasting about reaching level 100, a milestone he can only imagine. His own status screen reveals a cruel truth: no skills and a pitifully low level. For 6 long years, he's been trapped at level 8, feeling like he doesn't even deserve to exist. In a society where everyone has awakened incredible abilities, he is an outcast. He carries the crushing burden of being the only unawakened person left on Earth. Suddenly, the city's alarms blare, signaling the arrival of a new calamity. The citizens groan in annoyance, more inconvenienced than alarmed by the early morning warning. But for a little girl lost in the crowd, the blaring sirens bring nothing but pure terror. Her mother clutches her, offering hollow assurances that the Numbers will soon arrive. Their hope is instantly shattered as a monstrous claw tears through the sky just above them. The mother can only stare in disbelief as their supposed protection fails. A colossal dragon-like creature descends, turning the panicked crowd into a stampede. Kuya watches the chaos unfold, hearing the desperate pleas for anyone, any hero, to intervene. A single foot plants itself firmly on the ground, moving against the tide of fear. With a surge of adrenaline, the powerless Kuya sprints towards the mother and child. He stands before the towering beast, a lone shield against an overwhelming threat. His eyes widen in absolute terror, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek. The monster's massive claw descends, threatening to obliterate the boy and the family he shields. In this final moment, he's consumed by a single agonizing regret: his own powerlessness. Suddenly, a blur of motion intercepts the attack, a powerful kick shattering the beast's advance. Kuya can only stare in utter disbelief, his mind struggling to comprehend his last-second rescue. He looks up to see a familiar face, a man with an intense gaze and long flowing hair. It's Seika Inui, one of the Numbers and renowned as the strongest man in the world. Kuya collapses to the ground, gazing up at the very hero he has idolized his entire life. This encounter triggers a memory from 6 years ago, when a special-grade calamity descended upon the world. That monstrous entity had been unstoppable, overwhelming even the awakened and causing catastrophic losses. He remembers being just an 11-year-old boy, caught in the crossfire of that devastating event. Surrounded by the grim aftermath of the battle, his memories of that day are a fragmented, terrifying blur. Yet he vividly recalls the Numbers fighting a desperate life-or-death struggle against the colossal entity. The tide of the battle seemed to turn when his hero, Seika Inui, began to overwhelm the special-grade calamity. But just as victory seemed within reach, the creature's glowing eye locked onto a new, smaller target. The colossal beast had spotted the helpless boy cowering alone amidst the destruction. In a flash of malevolent energy, the monster abandoned the heroes and lunged directly for Kuya. His mind registered the pure horror of the impending attack before his memory abruptly cuts to black. When consciousness returned, he found himself being cradled safely in someone's arms. Looking up, he saw the kind, reassuring face of Seika Inui, the very man who had saved his life. He remembers the blood and the pain, but above all, the relief of being saved by Mr. Inui. Snapping back to the present, Kuya stares up in utter confusion at the scene unfolding. The crowd's terror instantly melts into fawning adoration for the legendary hero. An overeager fan shoves Kuya aside, sending him tumbling to the ground. He realizes this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to speak to the man he's idolized for years. Mustering his courage, he holds up a notebook detailing his plan to become one of the Numbers. The hero turns, his piercing golden eyes finally noticing the determined young man. Kuya explains that Seika saved him years ago, inspiring him to pursue strength. He clutches his notes, admitting that despite trying his absolute best, he has failed. Kuya confesses his greatest shame: his level and skills simply refuse to grow. He desperately asks what it takes to become a hero like them. Seika turns, his golden eyes narrowing with an unreadable, cold expression. But before the hero can answer, an adoring fan shoves Kuya aside once again. He hits the pavement hard, his moment with his idol completely shattered. A small voice cuts through the noise, calling out to him with familiarity. He looks up to see the little girl he shielded running towards him with a bright smile. A genuine smile crosses his face, relieved that she is unharmed. She thanks him for his bravery, and for a moment he feels like a real hero. But his brief moment of pride fades as he looks back towards the crowd. He sees the little girl now being held by Seika, the true hero, as he walks away unnoticed. He walks away alone, a forgotten footnote in the day's heroic tale. Leaving the chaos behind, Kuya forces himself back to the mundane reality of getting to school. On a public screen, a news report celebrates Seika Inui for his swift and successful subjugation of the beast. Seika declares to the world that the numbers fight to prevent a repeat of the tragedy from 6 years ago. Koya stops to watch, his own painful memories resurfacing as the hero speaks of the great losses from that day. A flicker of something intense, something knowing, ignites in Koya's eyes. The reporter gushes, cementing Seika's status as the living legend who single-handedly defeated the special grade calamity. But in a private moment, Seika's expression darkens, internally denying the public's version of his victory. His dark thoughts are shattered by the deafening cheers of his adoring fans. Seika quickly composes himself, offering the crowd a serene smile that hides the unsettling truth. As the news report concludes, Kuya turns away, continuing his lonely walk to school. His solitary journey is interrupted as a hand suddenly reaches for him from behind. A cocky, blonde-haired student grabs him by the collar, and Kuya recognizes his classmate, Tanba. Tanba's muscular friend shoves Kuya, aggressively scolding him for his casual tone. The group of bullies surrounds him, taunting the powerless boy with smug expressions. They boast about Tanba's status as a candidate for the numbers, mocking Kuya's pathetic level 8. Tanba feigns friendliness, telling his friends to stop while putting an arm around Kuya. Kuya recalls Tanba's reputation as a rising star, a powerful fighter on a completely different level. Maintaining his friendly act, Tanba invites Kuya to skip school and go bowling with them. But Kuya's eyes narrow with resolve, firmly stating he cannot skip his classes. Tanba's crew erupts in laughter, mocking Kuya for actually believing their invitation was genuine. The friendly act vanishes as Tanba leans in with a sinister grin, demanding Kuya lend him some cash. Kuya hesitates, reminding Tanba of his unpaid debts and well-known family wealth. The bully turns his back, dismissing Kuya's logic with a condescending remark about his naivety. With a twisted expression, Tanba lunges, revealing his true enjoyment comes from taking Kuya's money. He snatches the last of Kuya's cash from his wallet, insulting him for the small amount. Tanba smugly tosses the empty wallet aside, chiding Kuya for not giving in sooner. Defeated and bruised, Kuya can only stare at the ground, a trickle of blood marking his lip. As the bullies walk off, they fantasize about the incredible power and fortune the numbers must possess. Overhearing their conversation, a new fierce resolve ignites in Kuya's eyes, fueled by their talk of wealth and status. Kuya quietly tells the bullies that their assumptions are wrong, causing them to turn back in confusion. Clenching his fist, he repeats his defiance, ignoring the blood trickling from his lip. He erupts with furious loyalty, declaring the numbers are nothing like them and Tanba is unworthy of their ranks. Tanba's eye glows with a menacing light, his anger simmering at the unexpected disrespect. With a sinister grin, Tanba cancels their plans, his focus now entirely on punishing Kuya. He decides to teach the level 8 boy a lesson, leading them toward a derelict abandoned building. Inside the dusty warehouse, the bullies drag Kuya deeper into the shadows, ready for the confrontation. Tanba lands a heavy blow, berating Kuya for daring to talk back to his superior. A crackling blue energy gathers in Tanba's hand as he prepares to show Kuya his true power. A status screen materializes, revealing Tanba's staggering level of 2500 as he boasts about his overwhelming strength. Tanba prepares to unleash his ultimate skill, towering over the beaten Kuya. A vibrant, chaotic energy erupts around him as he reveals the name of his ability. Kuya stares in disbelief as a monstrous fish-like creature emerges from the swirling energy. The bully explains his power to store and control anything, even a calamity, mocking Kuya's defiance. The summoned beast lunges forward with a terrifying roar, sending Kuya scrambling backward in fear. His cronies jeer from the sidelines, sadistically enjoying the spectacle of Kuya's terror. As Kuya desperately tries to escape, his foot slips and he loses his footing. He tumbles to the ground as the creature's massive jaws snap shut, narrowly missing him. Before he can recover, the beast's powerful tail whips around, launching him across the warehouse floor. Tanba watches with feigned indifference as the creature's attack smashes into a wall, leaving his friend stunned. Kuya stares in horror at the bloody aftermath of the attack on Tanba's friend. The injured bully screams in agony, his body racked with unbearable pain. Tanba's crew panics, but the bully himself sees this as a chance to boost his reputation. He turns to the bleeding Kauya, offering to save him in exchange for a lifetime of servitude. Lying defeated on the floor, Kuya can only listen as Tanba mocks his worthlessness. A single tear escapes his eye as he silently questions the cruelty of his fate. Tanba casually steps on something, grinding his foot down with utter contempt. He's standing on Kauya's precious notebook, symbolically crushing the boy's dreams. The bullies pick up the notes, laughing at the intense training regimen Kauya followed. Tanba sneers at his futile efforts, telling him to accept his uselessness as Kuya clenches his fist in silent fury. Tanba looms over the battered boy, sneering that a worthless level 8 could never become a hero. His spirit breaks, a single tear tracing a path through the grime as he questions his cruel destiny. He looks at his tormentors, consumed by the agonizing question of why a bully like Tanba was blessed with power. As his consciousness fades, he feels a chilling cold, wondering if this meaningless end was all his life was for. Suddenly, a crimson demonic figure erupts from thin air, judging the scene below with silent contempt. The bullies' smug expressions vanish, replaced by confusion as they stare up at the unexpected arrival. In a strange, silent void, Kauya's eyes open and he calmly concludes that he must be dead. A disembodied voice echoes in his mind, expressing disdain that a human would perish so easily. The bullies look up in terror, demanding to know the identity of the menacing, fiery being. The entity reveals its name is Mugen, ominously asking if they've forgotten the incident from 6 years ago. Kauya's mind reels as he connects the demonic figure to the special grade calamity from his past. Mugen scoffs at the notion of defeat, revealing it has been sealed inside Kuya for 6 long years. The boy is horrified, unable to comprehend that the monster has been a part of him all this time. The entity explains its plan from 6 years ago, to possess the small child after its power was depleted. A flashback shows the moment of the incident, where the entity was unexpectedly absorbed by the young Kuya instead. Mugen recounts the humiliating years spent dormant, watching Kuya's mundane life, unable to escape. It explains that Kuya's near-death experience was the trigger that finally allowed it to manifest. The entity looms over the boy, delivering a chilling final verdict on his fate. Kuya's eyes widen, the terrifying reality of his impending demise finally hitting him. Mugen cruelly taunts him, highlighting a life lived without recognition or expectation from anyone. The entity's glowing red eye stares down, questioning why Kuya is treated like an insect. With a cruel grin, Mugen reveals the simple, brutal answer: Kuya is weak. It dangles the prospect of immense power in front of the fallen boy, the very thing he's always craved. As a final twisted gift, Mugen offers Kuya a taste of this power before his life ends. But Kuya's mind clarifies his true desire, not just power, but power to protect others. He remembers being saved by Seika Inui, fueling his desperate wish for the strength to do the same. A quiet resolve settles over him, a stark contrast to his earlier despair. His eyes snap open, now glowing with a defiant crimson light that mirrors the entity's own. A violent surge of untamed energy erupts from his body, crackling with immense force. Tendrils of raw power lift him into the air, leaving his stunned bullies staring up in disbelief. Tanba stares in disbelief as his attack is effortlessly stopped by a surge of crimson energy. The bullies can only watch in confusion, unable to process the sudden shift in power. Mugen revels in its new form, finally possessing the human body it has coveted for years. The entity reveals the truth, explaining that it was the reason Kauya's level remained stuck at 8. With a clench of his fist, the old status screen shatters, symbolizing the destruction of his former limits. The entity notes that the power it had been siphoning was being used incorrectly all along. A torrent of red and white energy envelops Kuya, showcasing his newfound, terrifying presence. A glowing infinity symbol appears on his chest as a sinister grin spreads across his face. The entity's glowing red eye glares down, filled with a chilling, predatory intent. Mugen curiously examines its new vessel, getting a feel for the human body it now controls. Tanba stares down, baffled by the boy's impossible resilience after the brutal assault. Now in control, Mugen smirks, finding the human vessel just as pathetic as it imagined. Its clawed hands hover over the infinity symbol on its chest as it activates a new skill. The bullies watch in confusion, mocking what they believe is Kuya's descent into madness. A sadistic grin spreads across Tanba's face, savoring the boy's apparent breakdown. With glowing red eyes, Mugen dares the bully to try and survive what comes next. Far from the warehouse, a hero announces his return to the gleaming city. Back at headquarters, Sika is praised by a colleague for another flawless, zero-casualty mission. His expression turns grim, vowing that the numbers must remain ever vigilant to prevent another tragedy. His vow triggers a fragmented memory of a young boy screaming into a blinding white void. His colleague's question prompts Sika to finally remember the boy he saved 6 years ago. A wave of regret washes over him, realizing he should have recognized the boy sooner. Suddenly, a terrifying, malevolent energy floods the entire headquarters. He feels an immense pressure, questioning if a new calamity has just appeared. He grimly assesses the power level, realizing it's on par with or even surpasses the numbers. Meanwhile, the source of this power, Mugen, lets out a sinister laugh, relishing his new form. Tanba's rage boils over, infuriated by Mugen's dismissive taunts. Ignoring the warning, the enraged bully charges headfirst towards the calmly waiting Kuya. He unleashes a torrent of fiery energy, screaming that he will obliterate the boy for his insolence. But Kuya effortlessly sidesteps the attack, leaving Tanba to strike nothing but empty air. With a flick of his wrist, Mugen sends the bully spinning helplessly through the air. Tanba crashes hard against the floor, leaving a trail of blood as Mugen watches impassively. The entity lets out a silent, chilling laugh, turning its attention to the remaining bullies. Mugen roars with exhilaration, finally free to feel and fight after 6 long years of dormancy. One of the cronies stares in utter shock, unable to believe this is the same level 8 boy. His friend, however, grins with misplaced confidence, eager to put the upstart back in his place. He powers up, a green aura flaring around him as he denies the reality of Kuya's transformation. The bully charges, screaming insults and refusing to accept that the powerless boy could fight back. He unleashes a whip of thorny vines, aiming to ensnare the newly empowered Kuya. The bully's eyes narrow with focus, determined to capture his target and end the fight. Mugen easily sidesteps the vine attack, leaving the bully kneeling in defeat. With a casual flick of its clawed fingers, the entity prepares to end the pathetic assault. The bully is sent flying backward with overwhelming force, his body twisting from the impact. Mugen's expression contorts with utter boredom, finding the fight disappointingly easy. The entity craves a real challenge, something more thrilling than these weak humans. Suddenly, Mugen senses a new presence approaching, a much more significant power. A wicked grin spreads across its face, recognizing the energy of a truly powerful opponent. Tanba, now recovered, unleashes his pocket ability, preparing for a serious attack. The bully seethes with rage, refusing to be humiliated by the boy he once tormented. He unleashes a barrage of projectiles from his pocket dimension, aiming to overwhelm his foe. The entity watches the incoming barrage with an expression of pure contempt. He casually deflects the entire volley, dismissing Tanba as an unworthy opponent. The bully's face contorts in shock, unable to comprehend his attack's failure. Before Tanba can react, Mugen seizes his face, overwhelming him with raw power. He smashes the bully into the ground with contempt, leaving him embedded in a crater. Standing over the defeated bully, Mugen senses the arrival of the powerful presence he was waiting for. A massive squid-like calamity bursts into the warehouse, drawn by the chaotic energy. He greets the monstrous creature with a wild grin, eager to test his newfound freedom. The entity stands defiant, dwarfed by the towering calamity but showing no fear. Mugen quickly dismisses the creature as a mindless beast, drawn instinctively to his immense power. Tanba pushes himself up from the rubble, his mind struggling to process the escalating chaos. His shock deepens as he realizes that just as Kuya became a threat, an even greater monster has arrived. Mugen lets out a wild laugh, seeing the new calamity as the perfect warm-up. With a predatory grin, he announces it's time for a proper warm-up, his body crackling with energy. But as the entity prepares to fight, Kuya's own consciousness flickers back, questioning the source of this incredible power. Kuya finds himself in a surreal cosmic void, his mind now separate from his physical form. He wonders how he could possibly be alive, vividly remembering the coldness that preceded his apparent death. Back in reality, the entity turns its attention from the calamity, addressing Kuya's consciousness directly. With a chilling smirk, Mugen taunts the boy's trapped mind, amused that a part of him is still conscious. He casually dismisses the boy's lingering consciousness, deciding it's of no consequence to him. Mugen smirks, telling Kuya's trapped mind to enjoy the show from the front row. The boy's consciousness questions the entity, demanding to know its sinister plan. The entity turns to the massive calamity, stating its intentions are obvious. With a vicious grin, Mugen declares it will finish the destruction it started 6 years ago. A memory flashes, showing the fiery devastation of the original special-grade calamity. Kuya recalls the grim scene, sitting alone amidst the bodies of the fallen. Mugen vows to eliminate the new monster before resuming its slaughter of humanity. But the entity's triumphant declaration is cut short by a sudden, unexpected development. Kuya's spirit questions if this is truly a continuation of the past tragedy. He reaches for the core of his newfound power, a flicker of defiance in his trapped mind. With fierce determination, Kuya's consciousness fights back, refusing to let the entity control his body. His spirit reaches out, desperately trying to reclaim control from the demonic entity. A surge of agonizing energy courses through him as the internal battle for his body rages on. The entity's face contorts in fury, shocked by the boy's unexpected and powerful resistance. In a stunning turn of events, Kuya's will prevails and he regains physical control. The fiery entity stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend how it was just expelled from its vessel. Looking down at his hands, Kuya realizes with astonishment that he is once again in control of his own body. Mugen's disembodied voice echoes with menace, questioning the boy's sudden defiance. Now in control, Kuya turns to face the colossal calamity, the true threat in the warehouse. The entity's voice delivers a chilling warning, reminding Kuya that he now faces this monster alone and powerless. Mugen's voice taunts him, urging Kuya to surrender control if he can't handle the fight. Undeterred, Kuya faces the colossal beast as it prepares to bring its massive tentacles down on him. He is sent flying by the creature's immense power, unable to withstand the direct assault. But Kuya looks up in confusion, surprised by his own unexpected reaction to the attack. Even the demonic entity is shocked, unable to comprehend what it's witnessing. Suddenly, Kuya moves with impossible speed, effortlessly weaving through the calamity's barrage. The entity realizes with grudging respect that the boy is not only in control but is also wielding its power. Kuya feels his body moving on instinct, the monster's attacks appearing to him in slow motion. He channels the borrowed energy into his fist, landing a devastating blow against the creature. A confident grin spreads across his face as he realizes for the first time that he can actually win. He grabs a thrashing tentacle, twisting with immense force to redirect the creature's attack. His eyes narrow with intense focus, analyzing the flow of battle with newfound clarity. The calamity unleashes a devastating energy beam, but Kuya is launched skyward, narrowly dodging the blast. Plummeting towards the beast's face, he finds himself in a perilous upside-down descent. With glowing red eyes, he realizes the immense power is difficult to control and requires absolute concentration. A status screen confirms his level is still 8, but he now consciously taps into his unrestricted awakening. He channels the chaotic energy, forming a massive, glowing infinity symbol above the stunned monster. Kuya unleashes a cataclysmic blast of power, engulfing the calamity in a blinding explosion. The dust settles to reveal the warehouse is now a smoldering ruin from the sheer force of his attack. He stands alone amidst the devastation, the defeated calamity lying in pieces around him. Amidst the rubble, Tanba lies defeated, groaning from the overwhelming power he just faced. Kuya stares in disbelief at the sheer scale of destruction, realizing nearby buildings were obliterated by his attack. The demonic entity's presence lingers, its menacing eyes questioning the true nature of the boy it now inhabits. He reflects on this moment, marking it as his fateful first encounter with the entity known as Mugen. This single event is shown to be the catalyst that would ignite countless future conflicts. Far away, another powerful figure with glowing blue eyes remains completely unaware of the coming storm. He sits atop a defeated beast, lamenting his own lack of a real challenge, oblivious to the new threat. The scene shifts to a pristine hospital somewhere in the city where the consequences of the battle are being dealt with. A nameplate reveals the room belongs to Tanba, whose thoughts are consumed by Kuya's nickname. Lying in his hospital bed, a bandaged and furious Tanba seethes with rage, vowing to never forgive Kuya. A nurse informs the furious Tanba that he has a visitor, despite his orders for privacy. An imposing figure in a blue uniform enters, scolding the injured boy for his rude behavior toward the nurse. The visitor looks down with an unimpressed smirk, while his female colleague stands beside him. Tanba's anger turns to shock as he recognizes the visitor as the famous hero, Seika Inui, from the numbers. Inui inquires about Tanba's condition, wryly noting that surviving an encounter with a high-class calamity could be considered lucky. Tanba's gaze shifts to Inui's companion, realizing another member of the numbers is present, deepening the mystery of their visit. Inui reveals their true purpose, to investigate the person who defeated the calamity, asking Tanba for any information. A fragmented memory flashes through Tanba's mind, replaying the impossible sight of Kuya battling the monster. His face contorts with rage as he grits his teeth, the name of his tormentor echoing in his thoughts. Overwhelmed with humiliation, Tanba erupts in a furious outburst, thrashing in his hospital bed. In a desperate bid for glory, Tanba lies, claiming he was the one who defeated the calamity. He then demands a spot in the numbers, believing his fabricated story is his ticket to the top. Internally, his pride boils over, refusing to ever admit he was saved by the boy he tormented. Inui's colleague's eyes glow with an ethereal light, seemingly peering right through his deception. The hero himself, Seika Inui, watches with a knowing, unimpressed gaze, seeing the truth. He calmly acknowledges the boy's frantic claims, his expression betraying his disbelief. With a patronizing smile, Inui advises Tanba to focus on healing before making such grand demands. Tanba's bravado shatters as he watches the hero's turn to leave, his opportunity slipping away. Walking away, Inui's partner scoffs at Tanba's pathetic attempt to act tough, dismissing him as a weakling. Inui counters her with a wry smile, calling the bully a rising star, much to her utter disbelief. As they leave, Inui shifts his focus to the other survivor, wondering who was sent to investigate. He reveals they dispatched the fast-rising number 13, justifying the choice by stating a special grade threat requires a top-tier ranker. The scene cuts to a genius destined for greatness, a young man with striking white hair walking toward a towering skyscraper. This promising hero is introduced as Kei Kusanagi, his piercing blue eyes filled with confidence. The skyscraper is revealed to be the imposing headquarters of the Numbers Association. Elsewhere, Kuya stares up at that very same building, his own resolve hardening. He stands before the hub for all rankers, a place where warriors gather to fight the calamity threat. Kauya knows this is the home of the legendary Numbers, the 10 strongest heroes in the nation. He realizes his idol, Seika Inui, is somewhere inside, inspiring him to take the next step. But as he clenches his fist, he confronts a harsh reality. He has no plan to control the demonic entity Mugen, still lurking within him. He acknowledges the terrifying possibility that the demonic entity could seize control of his body again. With grim resolve, he decides that if that happens, someone must be strong enough to end his life, and Mugen along with it. Believing only Seika Inui possesses that strength, Kuya strides purposefully toward the Numbers headquarters. Inside, he's greeted by a long line of identical, smiling receptionists in matching pink outfits. Kuya is taken aback, wondering if their identical appearance is the result of a special ability, like cloning. He nervously approaches the desk and asks one of the receptionists if he can see Mr. Inoue. The receptionist informs him that Inui is out, and seeing he has no appointment, asks for his name and age. He stammers his introduction, identifying himself as 17-year-old Kuya Kamakami. After checking her system, the receptionist looks up in surprise, noting that he has no skill registration on file. Her friendly demeanor vanishes as she informs him that failing to register an awakened skill is a serious crime. Kuya nervously tries to explain that his skill only just manifested. The receptionist's gaze sharpens as he explains his skill never appeared until now. Her demeanor shifts back to friendly, offering to register both his skill and his rank or status. The boy is taken aback, confused by how easily the situation was resolved. He's directed to a machine for skill analysis, while another receptionist begins explaining the ranker system. Deep within his consciousness, the entity Mugen observes the proceedings with disdain. Mugen scoffs at the surrounding humans, dismissing them all as utterly insignificant. Suddenly, Koya's focus is drawn to a white-haired boy whose presence radiates an unusual power. The demonic entity also senses this unique energy, its curiosity piqued by a potentially worthy individual. Unaware of the internal drama, the The receptionist calmly explains that registering will grant him an official rank. The receptionist explains that his rank will rise as he defeats calamities, with the top 10 earning fame and fortune. She sternly warns him that using skills against other rankers is strictly forbidden, a rule that makes Kuya sweat. His original mission is forgotten as a shocking new possibility dawns on him. He can finally become a ranker. He snaps back to reality, realizing this isn't the time for excitement and questioning if this is a good idea. A wave of panic hits him as he considers the terrifying risk. The registration might expose the demonic entity within him. But before he can back out, the screen flashes, confirming his registration is complete. The receptionist officially welcomes him as a ranker, and Kuya slumps over the desk in sheer relief. Now it's time for the results, and Kuya nervously awaits the reveal of his official skill and rank. Both he and the receptionist stare in confusion at the results displayed on the holographic screen. The system registers his name and level as 8, but bafflingly, it shows no skill, prompting her to suspect a machine error. Kuya breathes a sigh of relief, realizing he dodged a massive bullet when the machine failed to detect Mugen. He quickly tells the confused receptionist not to worry about the error, desperately trying to end the registration process. But his relief is cut short when the white-haired boy he noticed earlier appears right behind him, calling him by name. Startled, Kuya whips around, completely caught off guard by the sudden and direct confrontation. The boy's piercing blue eyes glow as he cryptically tells Kuya that he expects great things from him. In a flash of blue light and crackling energy, the mysterious boy vanishes from sight. He reappears on a teleportation platform across the room, leaving the receptionist stunned on the floor. Kuya instinctively drops into a defensive stance, a faint blue aura now swirling around him. He stares in disbelief, completely baffled by the strange energy now emanating from his own body. The floor beneath him is completely gouged out, and the white-haired boy turns back, wondering if Kuya was responsible for the destruction. The white-haired boy smiles knowingly, wondering if Kuya is the powerful individual he's been searching for. The two rankers face off across the ruined floor, the sheer pressure of their confrontation sending receptionists scrambling. Onlookers panic, realizing a forbidden duel between rankers is about to break out in the middle of the headquarters. Kei's intense blue eyes narrow, his gaze fixed solely on Kuya, ignoring the chaos around them. The receptionists frantically try to intervene, warning them both of the severe punishment for fighting inside the association. Kuya remains on high alert, the unfamiliar blue energy continuing to swirl around his body. His eyes dart around in confusion, still trying to understand the strange power emanating from him. The crowd begins to murmur as they recognize the white-haired boy, identifying him as the infamous Kusanagi. One of the onlookers explains to his friend that the boy is the notorious rank 13 Kei Kusanagi. He reveals Kusanagi is a battle maniac constantly seeking a challenge, urging everyone to flee before they get caught in the crossfire. Kuya confronts the white-haired boy, demanding an explanation for his sudden aggression. He accuses the boy of a reckless and dangerous move, completely baffled by the attack. Later, Kusanagi reflects on the strange encounter, questioning if there was any real danger at all. He recalls a rumor he heard, one that claimed this new ranker was even stronger than him. The scene cuts to a dimly lit bar, where Kusanagi confronts Seika Inui with a direct question. Inui dismisses Kusanagi's challenge, clarifying their meeting is about something else entirely. Inui offers the young ranker a glass of milk, but Kusanagi prepares to leave uninterested. Changing his mind, Kusanagi accepts the drink, much to Inui's quiet amusement. Inui explains the boy survived an encounter with a monster that emitted pressure on par with a special grade calamity. He theorizes that this mysterious survivor might even be stronger than their powerful colleague, Taka-kun. Kusanagi's expression hardens as he considers Inui's words about the mysterious survivor. Inui wonders aloud if the boy shares their aspirations, but Kusanagi offers to investigate himself. Inui questions if a fight is inevitable, and Kusanagi admits it's a possibility depending on the situation. The young ranker turns away, his mind seemingly made up as he heads for the exit. He pauses at the door, boldly declaring that his ultimate goal is to fight Inui, not some newcomer. With an amused smile, Inui accepts the challenge, promising to face the ambitious ranker when the time is right. Returning to the confrontation, Kusanagi studies Kuya's stats, baffled by his level 8, unranked status. Yet, his own senses betray the data, as he feels an undeniable pressure that contradicts the official stats. Kuya breaks into a cold sweat, feeling the sheer intensity of Kusanagi's power as a stinging sensation on his skin. He realizes Kusanagi's strength is on a completely different level, making even Tanba seem insignificant in comparison. Kusanagi's eyes glow with intensity as he decides to force the confrontation. The white-haired ranker lunges forward, his explosive speed kicking up a vortex of energy. Kuya desperately tries to de-escalate, insisting he has no desire to fight him. But Kusanagi is relentless, daring the boy to prove his words by stopping him. Pushed back by the immense pressure, Kuya scrambles for a way out of the impossible situation. He grits his teeth, knowing the terrifying consequence of being defeated in this duel. The horrifying image of Mugen flashes in his mind, the entity waiting to be unleashed. Kuya's resolve hardens, realizing he must avoid that outcome at all costs. Across the room, Kusanagi calmly condenses a sphere of pure, crackling blue energy. He launches himself forward, eager to see the true power he senses within his opponent. Kusanagi unleashes the energy sphere, demanding to see Koya's true power as the boy realizes the situation is dire. Koya's survival instincts scream at him to dodge, but his attention is drawn to a civilian in the blast's path. His eyes widen in horror as he spots a small child frozen in fear directly behind him. With the crowd fleeing in panic, Koya realizes the innocent child is about to be caught in the crossfire. In a split-second decision, Koya intercepts the blast, absorbing the full impact to protect the boy. The resulting explosion shatters the building's facade, sending a shockwave rippling through the city. As the smoke clears, Kusanagi stands unfazed, calmly observing the aftermath of his attack. The white-haired ranker's eyes narrow, analyzing the unexpected turn of events with intense curiosity. Koya emerges, shielding the child as a crimson aura erupts around him, confirming Kusanagi's suspicion that he's no mere level 8. With glowing red eyes, Kuya glares at Kusanagi, furious at the reckless endangerment of a civilian's life. Kuya furiously questions Kusanagi, asking if power isn't meant to protect the innocent. The white-haired ranker looks back with genuine confusion, as if the concept is entirely foreign to him. Kusanagi calmly states that he fights purely for the thrill, regardless of whether his foe is a calamity or a human. His expression twists into a dark grin, revealing his only desire is to test the limits of his own strength. Kuya's eyes blaze with crimson fury, utterly disgusted by Kusanagi's reckless and selfish philosophy. He rises from the ground, his own powerful red aura flaring up in response to the challenge. Koya furiously declares that anyone who wields power so arrogantly is no different from a monster. An amused smirk spreads across Kusanagi's face, intrigued by the boy's fiery resolve. He challenges Kuya to prove his point, daring him to try and defeat him right then and there. Kusanagi takes a fighting stance, his powerful blue aura clashing with Koya's crimson energy as they prepare to fight. Kusanagi's attack misses completely, his face twisting in shock as Koya disappears from his sight. In a blur of motion, Kuya effortlessly sidesteps the punch, leaving the battle maniac striking at empty air. The force of his own missed attack sends Kusanagi stumbling back, baffled by his opponent's impossible speed. Regaining his balance, Kusanagi recognizes Kuya's defensive posture, his hand glowing with renewed power. Kuya's crimson eyes narrow in intense focus, anticipating the white-haired ranker's next move. But as Kusanagi closes the distance in an instant, Kuya realizes it's not his opponent who's moving. He's being forcibly pulled toward Kusanagi, an invisible force dragging him into the attack against his will. A powerful shock wave erupts, sending Kusanagi flying backward as Kuya's defensive ability activates. Deep inside, the entity Mugen observes with interest, finally understanding the nature of Kuya's unique power. Mugen's demonic voice echoes in Kuya's mind, urging him to fail so it can reclaim its vessel. Ignoring Mugen's taunts, Kuya unleashes a furious punch, his red aura flaring with righteous anger. Kusanagi calmly crosses his arms, his own blue energy creating an impenetrable defensive barrier. Kuya's eyes widen in shock as his attack is somehow nullified before it can even connect. He's suddenly flung backward, repelled by an unseen force, while Kusanagi prepares another assault. The white-haired ranker unleashes a barrage of energy slashes, forcing Koya to navigate a deadly vortex. Kusanagi scoffs at his opponent's defensive maneuvers, questioning why he's holding back. His glowing blue eyes narrow with intensity, determined to force a real fight out of the newcomer. Kuya's expression hardens with focus, his crimson eyes tracking every subtle movement. Another powerful energy tears through the floor, narrowly missing Koya as he's moved once again. He finally understands his opponent's bizarre ability, realizing Kusanagi can forcibly move him with a simple gesture. Realizing he can't be manipulated at a distance, Kuya closes the gap for a close-quarters assault. Kusanagi looks on with utter disdain, finding his opponent's tactics predictable and boring. But the white-haired ranker effortlessly counters, landing a swift, decisive blow to Kuya's face. He follows up with another brutal strike, completely overpowering Kuya in the exchange. Kusanagi's fist glows with immense blue energy as he relentlessly pummels his opponent. Kuya is completely overwhelmed by the barrage, unable to defend against the sheer speed and force. Bruised and bleeding, he grimly accepts that he's no match for Kusanagi in a direct physical confrontation. But a fire still burns in his eyes, refusing to surrender despite the overwhelming odds. He remembers his past weakness, contrasting the helpless boy he once was with the fighter he is now. The mere fact that he can now stand and fight fills him with a renewed sense of purpose and infinite possibility. Koya channels his newfound resolve, believing his potential is far from zero. But Kusanagi calmly counters, asserting that Kuya's power is effectively nullified. His ability activates, flipping Kuya upside down and suspending him in midair. Kuya looks on in helpless frustration, completely caught by his opponent's bizarre power. With a single gesture, Kusanagi slams him into the ground with overwhelming force. The impact creates a blinding flash of light that illuminates the entire city block. As the light fades, Kusanagi stands alone, utterly bored by the anticlimactic outcome. He feels tricked by Inui, disappointed that the fight offered no real challenge. But a small cut on his cheek and a lingering pressure make him reconsider his assessment. He turns to see a sinister red aura erupting from Kuya, accompanied by a chilling, disembodied laugh. Kusanagi stares in disbelief as Mugen's voice reveals it has taken control now that Kuya is unconscious. With a demonic grin, the possessed Kuya warns the white-haired ranker to prepare himself. Mugen cackles from above, a whirlwind of chaotic red energy, while Kusanagi watches from the ruins. The entity's features twist into a monstrous visage as it declares its turn has finally come. In an instant, Kusanagi feels a phantom blow across his neck, completely baffled by the unseen attack. He recognizes it's the same boy, but his appearance has warped into something far more sinister. Before he can react, the possessed Kuya moves with inhuman speed, closing the distance instantly. Kusanagi is left completely stunned, unable to comprehend the overwhelming force of the assault. The name of this terrifying power, unrestricted awakening, flashes across the screen. In the aftermath, Kusanagi admits to himself that for a split second, he truly believed he had been killed. Kusanagi barely evades a devastating blow, finding himself face to face with a completely transformed Kuya. The entity smirks, disappointed the attack didn't connect, but sensing a kindred spirit in the battle-hungry ranker. Instead of fear, Kusanagi's eyes light up with pure, unadulterated joy at finally finding a worthy opponent. He retaliates with a powerful slash of his own, but the possessed Kuya simply watches, unimpressed. With a confident grin, the demonic entity reveals it has already deciphered the secret behind Kusanagi's power. Mugen correctly deduces that Kusanagi's ability involves the compression of space or matter itself. The white-haired ranker confirms the theory, preparing another attack, only to see Mugen manipulating the same blue energy. Kusanagi explains his skill is compression, warning that its effects are far more than just simple damage. Unfazed by the warning, the possessed Kuya charges forward, eager to test his own power against this new ability. The two forces collide in a cataclysmic explosion of red and blue energy, shaking the very foundation of the building. Their fists connect in a blinding flash, locking them in a stalemate of pure, destructive energy. The demonic entity grins, finding the concept of human skills to be a curious phenomenon. It observes that these are abilities calamities lack, but mockingly deems them insufficient as it lunges at Kusanagi. The entity's fist smashes into Kusanagi's face, the force of the blow distorting his features. The sheer power of the strike sends Kusanagi crashing through the debris-strewn floor. Looming over the fallen ranker, the entity scoffs that skills are meaningless before absolute power, like a mouse pretending to be a beast. Yet Kusanagi's eyes burn with defiance, proving a true tiger won't be so easily defeated as his power flares once more. He unleashes another sphere of pure energy, which the entity observes with a flicker of interest. A wicked smile spreads across the entity's face as it remembers the nature of its current vessel. It mockingly recalls the weak mouse insult, its own arm beginning to twist and mutate with grotesque power. The entity's face contorts into a grotesque mask of pure, chaotic energy. It lets out a silent, manic laugh as its arm reforms from swirling crimson tendrils. Kusanagi's eyes widen in utter disbelief at the impossible sight before him. He watches the arm regenerate instantly, questioning if his opponent is even human anymore. Before he can process it, the entity closes the distance and grabs him by the collar. With a look of pure malice, it effortlessly lifts the powerful rancor into the air. Kusanagi is sent flying by a devastating blow, crashing through the ruined landscape. Lying amidst the rubble, a grin spreads across his face, thrilled by this overwhelming strength. In response, Kusanagi unleashes a new technique, a massive dome of light called Sanctuary Absolute Territory. He stands with arms outstretched, bathing in a brilliant blue light, creating an impenetrable fortress around himself. Kusanagi's eyes glow white as a wide grin spreads across his face, reveling in the thrill of the fight. The demonic entity smirks back, preparing to escalate the battle to an even more destructive level. It lunges forward, a whirlwind of crimson energy aimed directly at Kusanagi's defensive barrier. Kusanagi's gaze narrows, his focus absolute as he braces for the impending powerful impact. The entity's manic grin widens, confident it can shatter any defense thrown its way. Onlookers watch in horror as the clashing auras threaten to tear the entire building apart. The receptionist desperately pleads for them to stop, terrified of the escalating destruction. Suddenly, a massive figure in golden armor appears, shielding the terrified civilians from the shockwave. The receptionist's eyes fill with tears of relief, realizing someone has finally intervened. The armored hero effortlessly blocks both fighters' attacks, leaving Kusanagi and the entity stunned by his arrival. A brilliant golden explosion erupts, overpowering both fighters' clashing auras. The armored hero holds both combatants at bay with a single hand each, effortlessly neutralizing their power. As other high-ranking individuals arrive, their leader questions the chaos unfolding before them. Kusanagi and the demonic entity stare in mutual disbelief, stunned by this overwhelming display of strength. The leader of the newly arrived rankers steps forward, calmly addressing Kusanagi by name. Kusanagi's rage flares, warning the powerful newcomers not to interfere with his battle. But a female rancor instantly appears behind him, a blade at his neck and a warning in her eyes. Kusanagi's glowing blue eyes narrow, his frustration boiling over at the interruption. The woman's purple eyes glow in response, making it clear she won't back down. Their leader issues a final command, and Kusanagi finally relents, his shoulders slumping in defeat. The leader warns Kusanagi that even he will face consequences if he continues to protest. The demonic entity mockingly greets the leader, dismissing Kusanagi as an insufficient warm-up. Its crimson aura erupts as it declares its intent to settle a score from 6 years ago, challenging all of them at once. With a manic grin and glowing eyes, the entity dares the powerful rankers to attack. But just as the challenge is issued, the leader expresses his annoyance as the entity's power begins to fade. Kosha regains control, looking up in frustration as he complains about the limitations of his own body. His eyes return to normal as he confirms his consciousness has returned, pushing the entity back down. Completely drained, Kuya collapses, but the blonde-haired leader catches him before he hits the ground. The leader holds the unconscious boy, his expression unreadable as he assesses the situation. A flashback reveals a younger Kuya, desperately pleading to know how he can become one of the numbers. The leader's golden eyes reflect a deep, contemplative thought as he looks at the unconscious boy. As he carries Kuya away with the other elite rankers, Kusanagi suddenly calls out, demanding he stop. Kusanagi confronts the leader, staking his claim on Koya and refusing to let him be taken. The leader calmly orders Kusanagi to stand down, stating that the numbers will determine the fate of them both. Kusanagi's eyes flash with defiant disbelief at the blatant threat to his own standing. The leader reprimands him for the chaos, warning that his reckless test will have serious consequences. Another ranker dismisses Kusanagi's justification, calling it a selfish and convenient excuse. With a final command, the leader orders Kusanagi to follow, his patience clearly wearing thin. Sometime later, Kuya's eyes flutter open as he slowly regains consciousness. He awakens to find himself bound to a chair in a dark, unfamiliar room, completely disoriented. He struggles against the chains, realizing he's been captured and restrained. A familiar voice confirms his awakening, revealing the blonde-haired leader, Inui, standing over him. Kuya recognizes his captor, who formally addresses him by his full name, Kuya Kamiyaga. Inui lists his transgressions before a council, an unauthorized duel and widespread destruction. The council delivers its grim verdict, and Inui sentences the boy to death by execution. Kuya stares back in stunned silence, completely floored by the shocking and final judgment.